Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and in this video I'm going to go over some key shortcuts to change some of the most commonly needed settings on the Casio PX-S1100 digital piano. Now I know that if you have a device handy with the Chordana Play For Piano app that you can use it to easily change these settings, but what if you're at a gig and your phone is dead, or you forgot it, or you forgot the WU-BT10 Bluetooth adapter, or your USB cable or something? Knowing how to do even just some of the basic functions will really come in handy, so let's check it out. Okay, so touch response. Unfortunately, the PX-S1100 doesn't remember your preferred touch response setting, so if it is anything other than the default, like it is for me, I like it one lighter than the default, then you have to set it every time you turn on the keyboard. So for that, you want to hold down grand piano, and then hit F# 3 for off, or G3 for light, or G# 3 for medium light, that's actually my preferred setting, or A3 for normal, which is the default, or A# 3 for medium heavy, or B3 for heavy. So I'm just going to set that back to where I like it, which is G# 3, which is medium light. So layering. Before turning layering on, you want to choose your upper voice, because once layering is on, your voice choices are going to be for the layered voice. So I'm going to choose the jazz piano voice, because I quite like that one. So I'm going to hold down grand piano, and then I'm going to hit, you can't see that in the overhead shot at the moment, but I'm going to hit C# 1. And that gives me my jazz piano voice. Now to turn on layering, I press grand piano and C4. By default, I'm going to get strings for that. Now I can press grand piano in whatever key I want for the layered voice. So I'm going to choose the 60s electric piano, so that's going to be grand piano and F1. Now I've been messing with this combination a lot actually, and I really like it when the EP is made a little bit louder and octave shifted up an octave, so let's try that. So grand piano plus D4 will move the layer up one volume. I'm going to hit this about 5 times. And then note that grand piano and C# 4 will reduce the volume by 1, and grand piano and C# 4 and D4 at the same time will reset it to default. So you can hear that the electric piano is much louder now. Now to shift the octave up one, that's going to be grand piano and E4. And to go back down an octave would be E flat 4, and to reset it to default would be E flat 4 and E4 at the same time. Okay, so splitting. Let's say I also want to split the keyboard so that I have a bass guitar on the left-hand side. On the PX-S1100, bass is your only choice. The way you split the keyboard is just by selecting the bass, which is grand piano plus D2. Now, especially when you set layers up, but even if you haven't, you need to make sure you get that key choice right, because if you miss it and choose a different voice, then if you're layered, you're going to have accidentally changed your layered voice to whatever you just pressed, and if you weren't layered, then you're going to have accidentally changed your main voice. So I'm going to hold down grand piano, and I'm going to hit D2. And then now I've got bass on the left. And my layered voices on the right. So transposing, let's say I've learned this song in the key of C, but the band wants to play it in D instead, so I want to transpose up 2 steps. I can go up a step with grand piano plus F3, and down a step with E3, and I can go back to default, not transposed, with E3 and F3 simultaneously. So you can hear that I'm up a step now. Now, backing track relative volume. So this is a big one for me because I use backing tracks all the time, and while I do try to get them all as close to each other in volume as I can, they often aren't quite the same. Now, the easiest solution here is to use the device's volume to adjust this, which does work, but sometimes you can also need the incoming volume setting on the piano as well. For example, if the device volume isn't enough, or if you need it louder but increasing the device volume causes distortion, then you can increase Bluetooth audio and volume by pressing Function and G5. And that's going to increase the Bluetooth audio and volume, and to decrease it, Function and A flat 5, and A flat 5 and G5 together to reset it to default. And the final one is more of a something is messed up with my keyboard solution, which is to reset it back to factory settings. And for that one, you hold down Function and press A0, which is the leftmost key on the keyboard. So it'd be Function and A0. I'm not actually going to do that, but that's how you would reset it back to factory defaults. So those are some of the more common functions I think would be the most useful to know if you're either not using the Chordana Play app at all, or if it's a situation where you don't have the app available. Now, some things to think about though. Let's say you're at a performance and you've memorized all these key combinations that I just showed, and you've set the keyboard up this way and totally nailed your performance. But now it's time to go on to the next song. Well, to do that, you either have to remember every single setting that you've changed and adjust it as needed for the next song, or turn the keyboard off and back on to get back to the default settings and then start from there. For example, let's say the only thing you did was turn layering on with the default strings as the layer, but you adjusted the volume way down because you thought the strings were too loud. Then for the next few songs, there are no layers, so you just pressed grand piano and C4 again to turn layering back off. And then for a later song, you need to layer a different voice. So you go ahead and turn layering back on, set that voice up. Well, in that situation, your volume setting for the layer is still going to have been turned down from the prior setting you did. So you're going to have to remember to do that because there's no display. So there's really no way to tell what your current settings are unless you remember them. And if you're using the Chordana Play for Piano app, just be careful because I have had that app time out, lose settings, and if you're using Bluetooth, just lose its connection totally. Now, I have to say, as I've had more and more experience with different keyboards over the past couple of years, that I'm really starting to be of the opinion that all keyboards and digital pianos should have a display, or at the very least, some kind of visual indication of what your current basic settings are, especially if you intend to use the keyboard outside of your home to perform or anything. The Yamaha P125, for example, has no screen, but you can at least look at the keyboard and see what voices you've selected and whether or not they're layered or split. But that is the extent of what you can see on that interface. So there's still lots of stuff that you can't see. This is a topic I'm going to be talking more about in future videos, one of which is coming soon, which is my likes and dislikes of my Casio PX-S1100 after having owned it for about 4 months. So anyways, I hope you found this video useful, and if you like the content, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. Thanks a bunch and have an awesome day.